A major revamp that we can pick up in the insolvency and the bankruptcy court is now in work. ET now has accessed key recommendations put forward by an expert committee to the banking law, which will in effect have an impact on all the key stakeholders, whether you talk about lenders, resolution professional, bidders, of course the insolvency company as well. Ashwin Mohan is now joining us with all the details.
Right, thanks for that, Pankaj. This is definitely going to be a big bang report that will come in from the Insolvency Law Committee. And this is, of course, a report which is going to, in fact, have an impact on the entire manner in which the IBC cases are going to be run. It will impact the lenders, it will impact the promoters, it will impact the resolution professionals and, of course, the bidders. Now, I've gained access to the fine print of this report, and amongst many other aspects, it speaks about how interim finance is required to be made more flexible. In fact, the committee has sought that RBI should, in fact, go ahead and come out with flexible norms so that more banks and more ARCs participate in the entire interim finance process, which is required and essential to keep the entire IBC process alive. Then let's talk about the controversial section 29A, and this is the section that has in fact barred promoters from bidding for targets if they are in fact a connected party or a related party to a delinquent company. And in this particular aspect, I believe that the committee has decided that any sort of unintentional exclusion of bidders needs to be sort of restricted. They require a wider bidding pool, and therefore they have decided and recommended that the term persons acting jointly or in concert, that should be deleted from section 29A. That will of course mean that any unintended exclusion can be avoided, because at the end of the day, you want as many bidders to be a part of the entire bidding process. There's also a whole host of recommendations on voting powers of the COC. Many important decisions like how do you approve a resolution plan, when do you appoint and replace a resolution professional. In that, the entire voting cap or threshold has been recommended to be reduced from 75% to 66%. In fact, most importantly, you also have a clause which says that if 90% of the creditors are okay with the resolution plan being withdrawn, then that can be allowed. You know, that is something that we have seen happening in the recent case of Ultratech and Binani, wherein Ultratech has sealed a deal with the lender, with Binani, outside the scope of the IBC. So that in a nutshell are some of the main recommendations that have been proposed by the Insolvency Law Committee. This is going to go from the Finance Ministry to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and shortly we are likely to see it being released for public consultation and of course later being introduced as a bill in the Parliament.
Ashwin, with the sort of problems that you were seeing in NCLT, the overall bidding, how different corporates, different giants were claiming about the problems regarding this law, it was expected that IBC and NCLT will see major changes?
Oh, definitely, Pankaj, because, you know, if you look at this, all the live cases that we have seen so far have seen several grey areas, and the whole intention of this committee is to ensure that the implementation of the IBC becomes a little more effective and that all the grey areas and loopholes are weeded out. So clearly, wherever there is a conflict of interest, wherever there is a part of the law that is not clear or explicit and is perhaps being abused by any of the stakeholders like the promoters or the bidders, the committee wants to ensure that that particular loophole is plugged. So clearly, if this entire recommendation is accepted by the government, then we can in fact see a sea change in the manner in which both the NCLT as well as the other stakeholders behave and progress. And one final point, if you look at section 29A, the entire part about persons acting jointly in concert, that seems to have sort of hit the earlier round of bidders, which is the first dirty dozen list released by the RBI. Now, if this recommendation were to be approved by the government, then that would provide a lot of bidding flexibility to the next round of stressed assets that has been released by the RBI. And that, of course, is the main intention of the committee, to ensure that there is no conflict of interest, but to also keep in mind that there has to be maximization of value so that maximum number of bidders come in and there is more flexibility.
Okay, that's the Mega ET Now exclusive. Many thanks, Ashwin, for joining in and giving us all of the details on the fine print of the IBC revamp. So we'll have to wait and watch as to whether or not these norms will be relaxed, because that is what our sources are indicating in order to help boost the stressed asset space.